I have to give a disclaimer before I start this video that the entirety of this video, the entirety, is about alchemizing energy, transformation. It's all spiritual. And I think that for a lot of people who live and are deeply ingrained in the carnal reality, watching this video could be a big trigger for you. A big trigger for you. So I'm just saying it's going to be a trigger for a lot of people. It's a trigger warning. You have been forewarned. Now, I feel like if you understand, which some people do, I'm not even going to say a lot of people, there are some people who follow my videos, who follow my YouTube channel, and they get it. I've had, she calls herself a witch. She wanted to call me a witch. I'm like, I don't do labels, right? But she saw something in me. She recognized, like, recognized spirit. And like she's one of the few that get it, right? And we're connected on social media. So there are some people I know watching this video who will get it. And then there are other people, that's fine, right? It's going to rub you a certain kind of way. So if I'm already giving you the forewarning that you're probably going to be triggered, why stay? Especially if you don't want to be triggered, right? Like if you know you don't want to be triggered, why continue watching this video? Why stay? Why torture yourself like that? Why? I'm being kind enough to give you a forewarning, to be very transparent and honest. Maybe you're just curious to see what I'm going to talk about here. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. I do foresee that this video is probably going to be lengthy. I have a few things that I want to discuss here. For me, I obviously am a creator. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. I've always been a storyteller ever since I was a little kid. This is just who I am. I haven't been doing like writing in the traditional sense, but I write in terms of vlogging, my experiences. So that's my new form of writing that I've kind of taken to. It's no surprise that as Black Americans, African descendants, Black people, like if you are connected to your identity, then you know that within African culture, within African spirituality, things are spiritual, right? That's just the bottom line of it. And when I mean spiritual, I mean that things supersede what the eyes, what the ears, what the fingers can touch, taste, smell, and see. It transcends that. It goes beyond that. And for me, and this is not anything new, this is no surprise. Like I've talked about this in other videos in terms of spiritual gifts. You guys can go check out a video that I made talking about spiritual gifts. The gifts that I recognize, that I have, that I embody, that I've known that I've had for many years, forever, ever since I was a little girl, right? I do see things sometimes that I would say others don't see, but I see it like in the spiritual realm, so to speak, right? Like in terms of a vision, I do experience things before they happen, right? Of course, with a Western understanding of it, right? You know, Westerners, they may have their own projection understanding of what this means, and oftentimes it's a misunderstanding of the true reality, the true existence of things, right? There's no way that we're talking about two different types of people. Two different types. I don't even know if we could call white people a creation. Right? If anything, they're more GMO. But it's just two different entities. I don't know if one could say that the Western or the European people fully grasp, right? Fully quite comprehend and understand our true nature and who we are, clearly, right? There's many examples of that. I'm not going to get into that, but I just wanted to preface this video by saying that. So, of course, I'm going to say some things that may not resonate, that may seem a little bit bizarre, right? To the untrained ear and the untrained eye, right? It may make you scratch your head and make you wonder. This video isn't really for you, right? I think the people that resonate with my videos resonate with me, right? We're like spiritual sisters and spiritual brothers. So back in 2021, on my birthday, everything is spiritual, y'all. Everything happens in divine timing. That's why, like, oftentimes I'm not alarmed. I'm not surprised, because it's just like, it's divine. So on my birthday, can you imagine that? September 28th, on my birthday in 2021, I go to celebrate my birthday after I actually renewed my driver's license at the DMV in Harlem. I go to this Harlem restaurant. I think it was Harlem BBQ, by the way. They got some really good food, too. But I go there to celebrate, and I get a phone call from what appears to be my father. But I think I hear the voice of my older sister. And she's telling me that my father was rushed to the hospital. And, of course, I'm alarmed, but my anxieties, my fears are immediately kind of assuaged by hearing my father and my sister sing happy birthday to me, because I'm letting them know, like, today is my birthday. Like, how ironic. They sing happy birthday to me, and I find this to be so odd. Like, I'm like, I have to be dreaming, but with my life and how things unfold, it's like my life is a dream. My life is a dream, right? No surprise, I call my autobiography American Dreamer. Because just the things that have happened in my life, it's like so unreal. And they're singing happy birthday to me. And of course, you know, the call progresses and I get off the phone, and then I come to learn that my father is in a very critical condition that warrants me to come down there. And I go. And I spend 10 days with my father in the hospital, overseeing his care. And I talked about this kind of briefly, intermittently in some of my videos, where I smelled the stench of death come through that room when I was with my father. Very distinct. And I mentioned that this is also like one of my gifts, that I can smell death. Like, I can smell death before it happens. It's odd, right? It's a certain distinct smell, right? I just know when death is near, put it that way. I can smell it. It's something I can smell. And so I smelled like the stench of death, but here we are. We're 2023. My father is alive. My father is well, right? He lives same house where he's always been living, taking care of himself. So, of course, he survived. It wasn't his time. Before I arrived to the hospital, though, in Jacksonville, this was when I was still in New York, and I was conversing with my sister. She told me my dad was not eating. Like, he would not take food from anybody. He was not eating. Maybe he wanted to give up. But when I came, it's like it took me coming down there for him to liven up. He started eating. When I walked in the room, he opened his eyes. Like, it was just miraculous, I think, how things unfolded. And so death had to pass by. Death could not take a hold of my father. It wasn't his time. But I say that to say that around this time when death was dancing around my father in 2021, I saw an image that appeared on my wall in my bedroom here where I live, right? I have a spot here in Upper East Side, Manhattan, New York. I have a 1-bedroom, and in my bedroom, there is a window. It's like a high, the windows in my place are kind of high, right? It's a high because I have high, high ceilings or whatever. And so around this time, I noticed like I'm peering through the window and I saw death. I saw a person lying on their back. This is a dead body. It is pretty much a skeleton. And that was in 2021 when it first appeared. And I have been seeing this skeleton ever since, y'all. It never went away. It wasn't there when I know it was not there when I first moved in here. But then it appeared around that time, right? When death was dancing around my father. Around my birthday. Go figure. And it has never left. And of course, being that it never left, like I look at it very intently. I can't help. And I only see it at kind of like at night or certain times of the day. So it has to be the right lighting for me to see it. But when I see it, it's clear and it's the same figure. And it's like the wall is in the wall. And the wall is brick, but it's white on the outside. And here you guys can see like there's a red brick, brown brick wall behind me, right? But the other wall is like white. But I can see this body there, and it has never left. And it just is very, I'll always look at it. Like when I can't go to bed without looking at it, right? Because it's just so there. For me, it never frightened me. I don't have the spirit of fear in me, so it is not frightening. It never was frightening. But it just piqued my curiosity. I'm like, what is this? What is the meaning of this? Like, that's just, I've always been curious since then. This is like 2 years. What is the meaning of it, right? And I just learned what the meaning was recently. So, Tuesday last week, I get a phone call. I get a text message actually at night that my mom was being rushed to the hospital. And am I surprised? Not necessarily. But is my heart heavy? Yeah. Right? She's being rushed to the hospital. She had to be rushed to the hospital. So, of course, like, I'm involved. I'm calling my sister. I'm calling the hospital. I'm communicating with the nurse to see what's going on. They tell me that my mom was going to be airlifted to a hospital in Jacksonville. My mom lives in St. Augustine, Florida. I call Jacksonville. I give them some time. I call Jacksonville. I'm like, okay. I get the update. I let them know. I get the update that my mom is supposed to be airlifted to you guys. I just want to know the status. And then they transfer me to the security person who oversees the flights coming into the hospital. And they're like, well, she's like, I don't have anything on my schedule. I don't see any incoming flights. I'm like, all right, no incoming flights. And she was like, maybe it'll update, right? So check back. So I call the hospital where my mom was initially rushed to in St. Augustine to see, like, okay, what's happening here? You guys say that she's going to be airlifted, and then it hasn't happened. And by this time, maybe 45 minutes has already elapsed. So I'm like, what's happening here, right? Still nothing. The update, because sometimes you gotta get a little assertive, a little aggressive. Like you really have to really get on the ass for you to get the answers that you need. So like I that comes right that they pull that out of me, and I say like, well, listen, y'all say that she was going to be airlifted. She's not clearly airlifted. They tell me that there are no incoming flights. So what is the deal? What are y'all doing here? All right, time is passing by, and then I was told that, okay, change of plan. She's no longer going to be airlifted. She is going to go by an ambulance. Now, we all know there's a difference between being airlifted and going by ambulance. It's a difference in time, and especially during those critical moments when we're talking about a person who is unconscious, right? She was rushed to the hospital unconscious. Every millisecond counts, right? But I'm also like the type of person that I don't really dwell on things that I have little control over. I'm in New York. This is all happening in Florida. What's going to happen is going to happen. So that unfolds. She eventually gets to the hospital in Jacksonville, downtown. She's there. They get her a room. She's in ICU. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit because I have a few other things I do want to talk about here as it kind of is interconnected with my own personal dating life, right? Another way that I alchemize energy. And so that was Tuesday night. Wednesday, she's at the hospital downtown Jacksonville. They're trying to do what they can. Run tests, determine nothing they can do, right? She's still alive though, right? Hospitals are advanced enough, I think, to their benefit to be able to pretty much do what the hell they want to do. They can keep a person alive. They want to keep a person alive. They can, right? And so they're pretty much keeping her alive on life support at this point. And this is Wednesday, and I go into work. Business as usual, because that's just how I am. I have a different way of dealing with things in life, and I feel like the best way for me to handle this situation is to continue with my daily routine. I can sit at home, but then sit at home and do what? Ruminate, right? So I go into work that following day, Wednesday, knowing that my mom is in critical condition and that there stands a 99% chance that she is not going to make it. And I didn't tell anyone. I was debating, like, should I tell? Should I not tell? Like, I went through that in my mind. Like, you know what? I'm a very secret person. I'm a private person. Despite you guys seeing me come on here, there are a lot of things, because I'm a storyteller. So I can finesse a story. I can tell a story so elaborate in a sense that you guys think you guys know everything about me when you really only know a snippet. Like, there are a lot of things that you guys just don't know. And I move in that way. And so I'm thinking, like, should I tell? Should I not tell? Should I tell? Should I not tell my coworkers, my colleagues? And I'm like, you know what? I think it's safe. I think I'm going to tell them, right? And so the closest colleague to me is the social worker, because I work on a team, right? I'm a ward psychologist at a state hospital in New York, and there's a team of us. So I'm the psychologist. There's a social worker. There is a treatment team leader. There's a psychiatrist. There's a medical specialist, right? So it's like interdisciplinary team of healthcare professionals that I work amongst. And so I'm like kind of more closest to the social worker and the psychiatrist. Like we kind of like this. Me and the social worker and the psychiatrist are like this, right? And so I tell her, I was like, yeah, my mom isn't doing well, right? And I let her know the news I got. And she's like, oh my gosh, and I can see that she's very genuine in her reaction and just expressing her concern and her best wishes for me and my family. Now, of course, at this time, nothing has been declared, anything. Nothing has been declared. It's just her condition is critical, right? And she's on a ventilator, which I later found out that she was also on a feeding machine, tubulation, the feeding machine. And I'm like, all right, so I let them know. And of course, the psychiatrist, he overhears the conversation I have with the social worker where I work. And he's just that compassionate person. And he's not from the US. So, he gets it, right? From a cultural perspective, from a collective perspective. Sometimes white people, European, they've been in a different zone. But anyway, so I felt like very supported by my social worker, the psychiatrist. He overhears, he comes over, he was like, oh my gosh, of course he's, checking on me. I'm like, I'm okay. One thing about me, I can take care of myself. Like, I'm good, right? I know how to deal with a lot of difficult situations. I've been through a lot. So of course I know how to handle a lot. Hence the reason why I chose the profession that I chose, right? You have to have a strong backbone. You have to be strong to be able to be there for another person and create a safe space to contain their pain, right? So I'm like, I'm okay, right? Of course, I'm tearful somewhat, not like bawling, crying, boo-boo crying, right? Or the ugly cry, but like, there are tears there in my eyes and a few drop here and there. I'm like, I'm okay. I kind of anticipated this. I knew that this day would come. It was just a matter of when. But I knew this. Why? I'll give you guys a little backdrop. Because my mom, for the longest, she's always had, lived with medical conditions, I always say everything under the sun. But she's just been very strong, very upbeat, kind of high strung in a way. Like, just, you probably would never be able to tell because she is that life force kind of in the family. She's very humble too with things, like not much of a complainer. She just kind of takes things as it is, and that's probably part of a problem too. But she's always kind of lived with the medical conditions that she has. My mom had been on dialysis for over 10 years, I would say, 3 times a week. That's pretty intense, right? And even when I communicated that to my colleagues at work, they were like, wow, one of them, she actually had worked in dialysis. So she's like, I know exactly how that is. That's some serious stuff. Yeah. So with that being the backdrop, right? And also not just dialysis, right? My mom, having 1 kidney, having diabetes, high blood pressure. My mom has had numerous heart attacks, right? So when it comes down to, okay, her going to the hospital, I've heard that numerous times. I mean, like, not even just recently. I mean, like, over the years, this has been like my mom's kind of life course, just the pattern. My mom has worked in a hospital. It got to a point where she stopped working, but she's always worked in a hospital. And she's had heart attacks that she didn't even know that she was having. And then doctors told her, okay, you had a heart attack when you're in the emergency room, right? Numerous heart attacks. Like, this is just something that my mom has dealt with, unfortunately. And so to hear this, like to hear my mom, okay, she's in the hospital, it's just like, it's not a surprise, It hurts. It hurts for many different reasons, though. I don't know if I'm going to go into too much depth. Like, I've made videos talking about my relationship to my mom. I made a video, maybe a few videos talking about why Black children hate their mothers. So maybe if you want, you can go and watch that video. I do kind of unpack some things, I'll touch the surface here in this video. But it's no surprise, this is what I'm trying to articulate, that my mom experienced what she did this past week. So the decision had to be made as to whether or not to keep my mom on life support. How would we proceed, right? And I appreciate the doctors. They laid things out pretty plain and clear, and they did it in such a way that the family felt empowered where it was our decision. Of course, this is what they're in the business of doing anyway, right? which I have questions about that too. Just as my analytical mind, my mind is just, my wheels are always going like, but that's a story for another day. And so on Wednesday, of course, I had met with my sister via phone, and we ended up doing a conference with the doctor so that we could determine my mom's course of action and what they were going to do. And I find it interesting that, okay, what's the rush? I mean, I get it. I get that to keep a personal life support can run you anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 per day. It is a business. I get it. But I'm like, what is the rush? And everything seemed like it just happened so quickly, right? So I gave my sister, because they were reaching out to me also to get authorization on how to proceed with my mom, given that my mom, no surprise, still legally married to my father. We all have the same last name, myself, my mom, and my dad. And so with that, there were like Florida law states that, given that she's still legally married, the decision kind of rests with my father. I call him. My dad is just a personality in and of himself. And granted, my mom, my dad, they don't communicate. They haven't communicated necessarily. Unless it's needed, they'll communicate. But, they haven't really communicated. And so with that, like, I just thought that whole situation was awkward. Like, how in the hell can he make a decision on my mom when they don't even communicate? Now, I communicate with my dad, of course. When my dad are like this, right? But my mom, my dad, no, right? I'm like the middle person. And so it kind of boiled down to him making that decision, which they allowed him to defer that decision to me and my sister. And he did. He deferred that decision to me and my sister. And it came down to us making that decision, which, I trust my sister's judgment. I'm not there physically to see my mom, but she did send me the picture of my mom. And I'm just like, whoa. She already looked like she's in the clouds. Like, you can look at a person, you can see death. You're like, yo, there's no life really in that person. All right? It's like, yeah, they're in the breathing machine, but that's what's keeping them alive. And I looked at her face and I saw that she just was in pain. Like, that's suffering. That's like torture to put a person through, that to allow a person to continue in that state. Right? And I expressed to my sister that it's really more selfish if we were to force it. Yes, we could on one part, like, do it from a space of having hope for my mother, to say, okay, well, we have hope and want to just keep fighting for her. But no, my mom has fought the long fight. She has fought enough. When I went to visit not only my dad in 2021, but I also saw my mother then. And I took my mom out. We went out. Like, I had my mom all over. We went different places. I was like paying for everything, taking her to whatever restaurant she wanted to go to, all of her favorite restaurants. And she had decompensated, Like, yes, she still was able to walk, but she got tired quickly. We had to take a lot of breaks. Her lung capacity was not up to speed as it should be. I can tell that, with all the breaks we had to take. I took her to the outlet mall in St. Augustine. There are two. There's like an indoor and an outdoor one. And when we were at because the outdoor one is much longer, right? We were at the outdoor one, and she had to take breaks. I'm like, you're tired? We barely walk. Did we even walk 150 feet? Right? And granted, there were like benches kind of planted throughout the outlet mall. So it worked to her advantage, but that to me communicated something. I'm like, rewind. Even before then, my mom came to visit me when I first moved to New York. I moved to New York from Atlanta in 2014. I want to say they visited, was it 2014? I think it was 2014 or 2015, one of those years. But they came like not too long after I moved here. And she was getting around. She was able to walk, right? But like, of course, New York, we have subways and there's stairs, and it didn't really resonate, right? So we're like going through subways that don't have elevators. And she's like, she's tired. We're walking up and down the stairs and she's tired. And I'm having to like be her support to help her get up the steps, you know, not like carry her on my back physically, but like, you know, offer some support so we can get up the steps. But she was just like exhausted. It was tiring for her. And I'm just like, oh, so even that, and this was, we're talking about 8 years ago, was indication that she had decompensated. She was not this strong, like, of course my mom always strong, but she was even stronger where my mom was always like 10 steps ahead of us. Like, she was the life. She was like always on the go. You had to slow her down. She really couldn't be slowed down. She's always been that person, and she's very short. So like even to see her like slowed down in that way back then, it was kind of indication. So all of this is like a progression, you know. For some people, they from the outside looking in, they were like, "Oh, it's a blessing to see that, you know, she was upbeat, and then just in her last days, like things slowed down kind of drastically, very rapidly." And I'm like, I don't think it was a rapid progression. I think it was very slow. And I saw this progression. I saw it. So yeah, you know, I say that to say it wasn't necessarily a surprise to see like my mom, this happening. And so we made that decision Wednesday to take her off life support. I think that happened Thursday. Friday, she transitioned. And I knew all this was going to happen. So I reached out to my friend. Funny enough, was that a Freudian slip? Did I say my friend? Anyway, I reached out to this guy that I had been talking with. Maybe he is a friend. Maybe. Funny enough, I think that was a Freudian slip. Hold on. But yeah, I reached out to him because I felt that I could confide in him. And I reached out to him the 25th, funny enough. Now, we had gone, I think, 5 days without speaking to each other. And yes, this is the same person that I went on a date with. I think back in April it was. And I made a video about the irony, right? But I reached out because I felt like I needed to. And he's local, right? So he's here. I reached out to him just kind of for support. I think when I initially reached out to him, though, I don't think he didn't know, right? I didn't drop the bomb like, oh, okay, my mom, right, is not doing well. But, you know, I was just kind of picking back up from the conversation where we left off when I reached out to him on the 25th. And that was the Thursday, right? That was Thursday. And so, like, he responded. That's why I reached out, because I knew he would respond. I knew that because I know that he had expressed interest in me, right? And continuing interest in me. And I found it very comforting, like, how he accepted it. Like, he could have been like, you know, nah, man, like, you know, because I was like on my thing where I didn't want to talk to him, right? Like, I'm over you. We're not compatible, But then this thing happened with my mom, and I'm just like, maybe I should reach out. This was a deliberate decision on my part. Funny enough, my colleague, she's like, why you reached out to him? Like, why are you going back on your boundaries? And I think she kind of, of course, she's a therapist. So the therapist we know, right? And I can kind of, she didn't say it, but I can kind of read her energy and just the way she was responding, as if like I reached out back to him because I'm vulnerable. Of course I'm vulnerable. Why not? It's a perfect time to do it. Now, of course, this is the odd part, right? And there's a lot of odd parts here in this video. But this is an odd part in the sense that I do things like that. This is not new, right? So, like, some of the things I share here and ways of responding. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I haven't even began to really this is just the tip of the iceberg here, okay? This video might be a little I don't know. I'm trying to get it under 2 hours, but we'll see. Let's see how long we've been going. But I do have some things to express. Oh, wow. I'm impressed. 35 minutes. All right. So I felt like that was a strength for me. Prime opportunity, prime alignment that yes, I am vulnerable. And I wanted to be vulnerable with him. I think it took my mom being in the condition. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. But I think that's why I feel like everything happens for a reason. And me and him had this conversation. Like he said he doesn't believe that. I think he doesn't quite get that saying. Because he said that people just say that when in fact it's our deliberate actions, our deliberate choices. Yes, it is. But I think apart from our actions, the things that we choose, I think that when I say everything happens for a reason, there are some things beyond our control. And there are some things happening and aligning, moving in the universe that align, right, in a certain way. I'm saying that happens for a reason. Those things outside of our control. And with my mom being in the condition that she was, it was just everything kind of fell as it should, right? And I think it obviously created this vulnerability in me that needed to happen in order for me to reach out to him, right? Because it's like, meanwhile, this situation is happening in the backdrop with the dating situation, me dating this guy that I'm questioning, and I'm questioning, for valid reasons. I think that things that I've seen in him and just things that I bring to the table, right? Just being me, right? From my own personal experiences and just my personality, just me, right? I admit I'm a very unique person. I am who I am. And so I alchemize that vulnerability. I welcomed it. I'm like, yes. And I knew that it was strategic on my part to reach out. It's not that, like I arbitrarily did it, right? Or I mindlessly did it. Absolutely no. Everything I do is with intention. Now I'll tell you guys about the ending of this story and with my mom, my family, and this upcoming funeral. Everything is intentional with me. Just know that. Being an introvert, like, think about introverts, we think a lot. We think very deeply, right? So it's very rare, I would say, that we move on impulse necessarily, Our actions, our behavior, we've thought about deeply. We think about everything. That's just introverts, right? Do research on how introverts are. We're always in our head thinking. Because anything that we do is thinking, okay? So I thought about it a lot, and I'm weighing out everything. And I'm thinking about it with a sound mind. And I'm thinking, like, I want to be vulnerable with this person. I know I wanted to be vulnerable. It's just like how. And sometimes we need that push, right? And I felt like I needed that push. And with my mom, me getting the news from my mom, I'm like, okay, I'm vulnerable. Perfect timing. So, of course, I reach out to him. And give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Give me a second. So I reached out to him. Of course, he responded right away. But the way I reached out, like I said, it wasn't like directly to say, oh, this is what happened with my mom, or this is the condition of my mom. It was more of a continuation from the conversation that we have been having. And I led with the statement of saying, you're following in your father's footsteps. Obviously, knowing it would get a reaction. Of course, he contested, disagrees, and then it just unfolds this whole conversation. And then when I felt like it was the appropriate time, because I think he asked me about what am I doing tomorrow or something, that following day, and I said, I'm off. I'm off today, I'm off tomorrow, and who knows, could be indefinitely. And then I let him know. Even in that moment, I'm like, should I even tell him? And the reason why I think I question, should I tell, like my colleagues or anyone for that matter, is because I think people sometimes misperceive. We project, which means we look at the world through our lens. And our lens is filtered, is shaped by our experiences, our belief system. And oftentimes I am misperceived because people are looking at me and my situation through their lens. How you see the world is not how I see the world, right? And so even with me sharing what I shared at work, I felt like I wasn't tearful until people started to say, well, I'm sorry for your loss. And then it's like, then it made me tearful. But I wasn't seeing it that way though. So of course, me being very connected to people, I feel what other people feel. I'm an empath. And it's amazing how that works though. It's because like other people's energy, it rubs off on you. So because my surroundings is telling me that I should be sad, and they're telling me, oh, that's sad. And then they're sad, and they're sad for me. And it's just like, okay, well now then I'm sad. I wasn't quite sad before though. Granted, it is a sad reality. It could be sad, or it could be surprising. It could be a joyous moment. You just have to know the context and have to know the story to be able to ascribe a particular label, an accurate label to what it is that a person should experience or feel. If I was to really go deep, I could go deep. I think I'm being mindful and respectful, even though I did give the trigger warning disclaimer at the beginning of this video. And I know, obviously, people will see, especially my family, will probably see this video if they want to. If they got the time to watch it. They may do, they may not. I don't know. But I think I am mindful to... I'm respectful to a certain extent of other people's grieving process. I am. So I can go deep. But I'm not going to. I will follow up though, because my truth is my truth. Hence the reason why, I have things that I share in my autobiography. My family doesn't agree with that. And that's the reason why I haven't published it yet. They don't agree. They just don't agree. When I started writing my book back in 2009, and it was scheduled to be released 2010, and I will post excerpts of my story, my growing up story, and how I got to the point that I got to at that point in 2009. 2009. Okay, I graduated, 2002, where I was 18, right? So that's 7 years later. That's what, 26? 25, 26 years old? And I remember someone said, that's a little bit early for you to be publishing an autobiography. I'm like, listen, you have no idea. You just have no idea of things. But anyway, it's like, yeah, so I was at that point, but then out of respect for my family, because I got threatened with a lawsuit, I chose not to. It's like, oh, that's how people get sued. I'm just like, but this is my story. This is my story, right? It's not about you. I find it very offensive when people make it about them. Yes, okay, you may be a player in my story, but you're just insignificant. You're a small player. It's not about you, it's about my experience. But anyway, so bring it back to the present, right? I strategically kind of interwoven what was happening with my family and our conversation, right, with this guy. And I let him know, like, yeah, my mom, she, is not doing well. She's in the hospital. He was sending out his condolences and relating it back to the loss of his mother, saying that he can relate and da 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 da. And he was just saying, yeah, I just want to be a support for you. Of course, he's taking an opportunity. Like, we're both alchemizing this energy, right? Listen, I'm not mad. I'm not mad, right? I'm smart enough to know. I hope people understand that. Sometimes people think that they got one up on you. Like, listen, I hope you're smart enough to know that I am smart enough to know. I'm a big alchemizer. We're all alchemizers, right? So, of course, like, I'm using this as an opportunity to be vulnerable, to be in a space with him that I definitely wanted to be. It's not that I did not want to pursue a relationship with him. It's that I had insecurities that were triggered, right? And that kind of pushed me away at that time, different times, right, from this person, allowing me to reflect and look within myself, but also to feel safe. So it was a balancing act all along, and it still is. And also, he took it as an opportunity, I think, for him. It's like, oh, here's my chance, right? Like, her mom is dying, essentially, right? And clearly I'm vulnerable. And so he's like, I want to be there for you. I'll support. And this is just all about support. This is all about support, me supporting you, right? So he, of course, planned a date. He planned a date. Of course, I'm going to go out on a date because why? Like, this is a whole distraction. This is a whole distraction. Now, people can say what they want. Honestly, I really don't want to be vulgar. I really don't. But sometimes we have to, right? And sometimes we have to get in a space where we're just like, fuck it. Fuck what you think. It's not about you. It's called creating healthy boundaries. Living in our truth and taking care of ourselves. So much of my life is dedicated and has been dedicated and still is to me putting my things on the back burner. How I feel, what I think, and putting other people's wishes, other people's feelings to be in service to them. So much of my reality is that. So it's okay for me to take time to myself. It's okay for me to do things that are in the best interest of myself, even if it means that it comes at the detriment of someone else. That's okay. And I encourage anyone else, that's okay for you too. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel bad. People try to make you feel bad because I've gotten that a lot. So, of course, my mom's in the hospital. And, of course, I'm still here. I have not left New York, right? All this whole time. Now, of course, she transitioned Friday, so she's not in the hospital now. But leading up to this point, like, she was there. And the whole push was for me to calm down. I'm like, no, right? And so then there was this, like, people trying to ascribe guilt, project this guilt onto me. Oh, well, I'm just trying to make sure that you're making the right decision so you won't feel guilty about it. I get it, right? Because once it's done, listen, it's done. But don't you think, as a 39-year-old woman who is in the position that I am in today, I've made many of critical decisions. Sometimes in the moment, having to make many decisions in very critical moments, not only for my life, but the lives of other people. I think I'm pretty good at making decisions. Some very difficult ones too. You may not agree with my decision, But I think that I know how to handle myself, and I know how to make decisions. I'm just saying, I know I got this, right? And so, like, I did, like, this whole process is kind of annoying. It's more annoying for me. It's not even that, okay, my mom, it's a loss. Granted, yes, that is heavy, right? But apart from that, I think the weight, much of the weight comes from other people's, like the peripheral stuff around me, family, and it's just like, I don't know, like, I can make the face, but if you only knew how, like, irked inside I feel, it's best that I stay in New York, okay? I just know me. I just know me. I know what kind of energy that I need around me. And I just don't like people trying to project their feelings onto me. You own your feelings. I can respect that. You own your feelings. And I own my feelings, right? And do our feelings have to agree? They can, but they may not. But you allow me to feel what I feel. Don't try to project this made up guilt onto me, because it's not going to happen. I do not feel guilty, right? And people say, well, maybe down the road, like, I just don't want you to feel guilty down the road for what, you chose not to do. You chose not to come down here. Sorry to break the news to you. I can never feel guilty for doing something that I feel like is in my best interest to do for my own well-being. You can't gaslight me. That's what you call gaslighting. You can't gaslight me. A person should never feel guilty for doing what is deeply ingrained in them to do for their best interest. There's no guilt. Are you kidding me? If anything, they find solace in that. Guilt? No. When you're making the right decision for yourself, and this is just involving anything in your life, right? If it's the right decision for you that's in your best interest, why do you feel guilty about it? Because someone else make you feel guilty. Guilt is something that is external. People feel guilty because of these projections, because of societal expectations, right? These social projections that are planted in a person. That guilt is internalized because that's what someone else thinks of you. You're feeling a certain kind of way because you're thinking about what someone else is ascribing to your behavior, how they're defining what you should or shouldn't do, passing judgment. Then that's what guilt is. Never. I don't feel guilty. Of course, I will mourn my mom. I have mourned her. But do I feel guilty? I absolutely don't. I feel annoyed by family who think that I need to be a particular place. I don't need to be any fucking where, but where I am. And I only move based on what the Spirit tells me to do. Then, yeah, I may feel guilty because the Spirit told me, listen, you need to do this, and I don't do it. But even in that situation, it's up to me. It's up to me. That's what y'all fail to realize. So I am beholden to myself and myself only. Call it what you may. So yeah, the weekend happens, right? And he plans a date. Now, granted, the date is planned for Friday. I connect with him on the 25th, Thursday, by phone, right? Like, that's when we reconnect. And I let him know my mom's situation. He plans a date for Friday. And I'm feeling good about it. I'm like, okay. All right. I know that I'm going to get what I need to get out of anything. Oh, I take care of me. So I think that people, sometimes they just are misguided and have a misunderstanding of a person. just know and rest assured, if you're watching this, no matter who you are watching this, especially your family, no, I take care of me first. Please understand that. Same thing I was telling like my colleagues, like, listen, I take care of Danielle. If it's not clear, I don't know what to tell you, but I take care of me first. So know that I'm taking care of it and know that I will. And that's just who I am. I've always been an alchemist. I'm going to get what I need to get out of any situation. I hope you get what you need to get, because I'm definitely getting what I need to get. And so, of course, I agreed to the date. And oh, the date. We chose to go to a place that I actually chose a place this time in Harlem. And because I love Harlem, it's just, it does remind me of home. And we go and, you know, we're vibing. It's a West African restaurant. The food is okay. After that, we decided to go because I'm like, oh, I want to spend more time. I'm like, for me, obviously, quality time means everything to me. That's my love language. I've said that before, right? The issue that I had with this guy, and I continue to have, is that people think shit is a game. Like, people do play games when it comes to dating. And for me, I'm not about games, but I can play them too. Like, I've done that before. I've played games. I played along, right? But that's when I warn him, like, listen, the tables will turn. So when those tables turn, like, you're going to be feeling really shitty. Like, don't, like, I'm going to get into this too, because I feel like there is this battle, and he want to say, like, try to avert it to say that, oh, I have a struggle within myself. No, I'm not struggling within myself about anything. I'm very centered in who I am. But it's like there's this kind of, this riffraff, this back and forth, as if like me and him are at war. Beyond the physical, more like a spiritual battlefield. And I'm just like, I don't want to partake in this. I can eat, like, yo, I'm with the shit. I can do it, right? But I think it's counterproductive to what it is that brought us together in the first place. And if that's what brought us together, perhaps in some wicked way in the universe, as an evil attempt to try to attack me, then you really got it coming for your ass. I'm not the one. And that's the reason why I was talking about, like, I've said this to him about how, yes, I do practice spiritual warfare. Yes, I have certain spiritual practices. Yes, I have spiritual rank. And then he paused and was like, what is that? You know what it is. But he wanted to hear me say what it is. Almost as if he's concerned. Why are you concerned? Unless you are being sent by an adversary, right? Maybe you're not aware, right? Is there a spiritual battle happening? Like, as below, so above, right? As above, so below. So we look at what's happening in this physical realm that we exist in, right? There's always something happening above that it's not really us. It's almost like we're being puppeteered. We're the players in this. But who is really pulling the strings, right? And sometimes those strings are being pulled by entities, spiritual entities, I would have to say, that we could be aware of, but we may not be aware of, right? So I'm thinking, okay, like, who sent you? Kind of thing, right? Not on some paranoid shit, but more so on some higher consciousness, higher awareness type of thing. Like, you know, either we're going to do this or we're not, but I'm getting that sense because he's looking at me. So I'm kind of jumping the gun, right? This is like conversations that we've had after the date. Dial it back a little bit, right? I think this video might just be 2 hours. Oh, funny enough, it may seem like I've been talking for a minute, but honestly, I think I'm doing better than what I thought I would, because I thought by now it would be at 2 hours. So I think I'm doing pretty good. So like the last part of this video, I'm just kind of going to talk about the alchemization and the interconnectedness where the date happens. And remember, all this is in the face of what's happening with my mom. Parallel things happening. Strategic, though, right? Now, I've communicated to this guy, like, listen, I'm not your enemy. I'm not anyone's enemy. I'm not here to do anything to you. That's not me, right? I made it clear from my dating profile. This is the guy. Go back to the video that I made. This is the guy that I met from a dating app, right? I think it was back in April. We went on a date, whatever, right? So this is his second opportunity at a date. We go on a date, and then from the restaurant, it was Pawnee Bistro we went to in Harlem, because, I wanted to spend more time. And so we decided to hang out a little bit more. And I took him to this other spot called Corner Social, which I went there. I've had a good time when I went there. I went there maybe like 3 times at most. The first time I was invited by a colleague, a gay guy, several years ago. We had a good time. He paid for everything. We just wowed the fuck out. We used to work together at this outpatient substance abuse facility in Queens. This was back when I first moved to New York, back in 2014. And then I went to Corner Social again. I think I got turned away. They were like, oh, it was too busy, we were too crowded. And then another time I went, I think it was just I went to eat. I went for food, and I was just sitting by myself, just enjoying my own company. But yeah. So this time I'm like, oh, let's go. So we go, and it was nice. I mean, it was the typical Corner Social, right? It was a lot of people there, Black people. I told them it was mostly African-American crowd. They play our kind of music. Because this guy, he's Caribbean. And so we're there, and I ordered, I think, a Long Island iced tea, and he ordered his traditional thing. And something I wouldn't even say it's weird. I would say it was highly unlikely. It's not something that happens, right? My drink falls on the floor. And I have to say this, this is not, I'm very attuned to myself. I don't drink in excess. That's just not me, right? I'm very calculated in a lot of things, right? Especially if I'm sipping. And so for that to happen, it kind of was an embarrassment. I was just wait, my drink fell. I just heard it fall. Now, granted, I was tipsy. Even before we started drinking at that particular spot. We had a drink at the other spot, the restaurant we ate at. Yes, I was tipsy, but I'm just I just had got this drink. This is a brand new freaking drink. And I can't help but feel after it happened, it kind of shifted the energy into place. And I'm just wait, is this my mom? I felt I set the drink down, and then a spirit came in and just wiped the drink and make it fall on the floor. How did that drink get on the floor? I don't feel nobody knocked it over. But right at where we were standing, because I was at the table and they were saying you have to order food or you have to be in a party of 4 to actually occupy that table. Otherwise, you have to just stand up at the bar. I'm I'm not. Bar thing is not really me. No. I feel if you're classy, you don't sit at bars. It's just my thing, okay? And so, anyway, so the table was behind the bar, and I just planted myself there. But I just felt it was just, I don't know, it was mystical. But anyway, the drink ended on the floor, glass shattered. The guy came and cleaned it up, right? It shifted the energy, and the things that he's noticing, I'm not really noticing necessarily. I'm just absorbing the space. And this is before I get to call my mom transition. I'm just absorbing the energy, the space, just the vibe. But apparently, he tells me this was long after we left that place, and I make it to his place, and he's talking oh yeah, people were looking at you, and I know they weren't looking at me, but even women, they were noticing you. And I'm were they? Now, for me, I don't make a big deal about people looking. I know that people are going to look. I look at people, too. Well, we all look at people, right? So I don't make a big deal about that, per se. But I think I get where he was coming from, in a sense. I know I do emit a certain kind of energy. I do. I know that people recognize that energy. Even when I'm coupled with a person, a guy, right? And we're out in public, people are going to look. That's just it. You're gonna notice me. I don't try to be noticed. That's not the kind of person I am. But people, they're gonna notice. That's just fact. I was just telling him, like, yeah, I think, and maybe I said too much, because I feel like some things I shared with him, I think it struck it kind of rubbed his energy a certain kind of way. I know it. Even my first video, I was like, yeah, his ass, I was just in my feelings, like, his ass a fucking beta male, alpha male. You're a fucking beta ass male, right? And it rubbed him a certain kind of way. Perhaps because he's really alpha. Because if a beta male is called a beta, like, a beta male ain't gonna really, it's not really gonna bother him, because beta men know they're beta men, right? They just accept it is what it is. They know they're not dominant in that respect. But anyway, so, like, yeah, I think from there, from our first date, like, his whole intention was that, like, oh, I need to show her kind of thing. Oh, she's telling, because he saw my video. I know he saw my video before. Up until now, he said, oh, he just not saw it, like, after our date, the second date in Harlem. The first date was, like, Lower Manhattan. I know that he freaking saw my video that I made. I could tell. Because it just seemed like he was moving with a certain kind of intention, certain kind of energy that was pushing him to interact with me in a certain kind of way, as if, like, he had a point to prove or something. You got a point to prove. Just be you. Just do you. Right? And so, yeah, so that was a date. But so after that, funny enough, yes, I did agree to go to his place after that. I'm like, I'm adventurous. If I'm feeling the vibe, if I'm feeling you, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I can trust you, yes. So I did. I made the decision. I'm trying to remember at what point did he ask me if I wanted to go. Was it before? Or was that part of the plan? I think it was. Or was it not? It seemed like it was more impromptu when he asked me that about going back to his place. He was like, yeah, you can come and see my place or whatever. So yeah, from there, like, we go to his place, but, he doesn't live in one of the 5 boroughs. I live in Manhattan, obviously. And so we go, but en route there, we have to take a train, like Long Island Railroad train. And en route there, I get a call. En route, like, I think, actually, where we Penn Station. I think it was Penn Station. I get the call. This was, like, after we left the place where we were in Harlem. We at Penn Station. My sister calls me and she says, yes, the nurse said that it's not going to be too much longer. And so I could hear, like, my sister's voice is all rattled. And I'm like, okay. I said, let me speak to Mom. Now, my mom is still unresponsive, but she can still hear. So I'm like, let me speak to my mom. She put Mom on the phone. I'm talking to my mom, And, it's just a conversation with my mom. I don't think it was anything different than what I've already told her before. She's heard this before. She's a strong woman. She's lived, she's fought the long fight, which she has. And I did recap a story. My mom and my dad, I was, like, in college at Florida State University. No, was I? In fact, I was not in college yet. I think I was in high school. Oh my gosh. Oh my freaking God. I think I was a senior in high school. Wow, your girl was, wow. Yeah, so I was a senior in high school. And I was dating a guy that, I'm trying to remember where we met. I think we met, like, from a dating site or something. But he had graduated from, because I went to a college prep school my junior year. He graduated from a college prep school. But he also had went to the military. He's from the military, but then he got caught up, like, in the street life and shit like that. So he was in prison, and I kind of, like, reached out to him. My mind was like, okay, he might be in prison, right? So I wrote a letter, and I searched the Florida inmate search, and I found what prison he was at. Long story short, whatever. It was a reconnecting, right? So I already knew him before he went to prison. And so it was a guy that I was kind of connected with. Like, we just had this connection. I went to visit him in Tallahassee. I was a senior in high school. I went to go visit him in Tallahassee, and my best friend at the time, rest in heaven, she's now deceased. But she told my mom, because she was still, like, obviously she's close to her parents, so she was, like, communicating. And we're all, like, everybody's close. Like, think about St. Augustine. Everybody knows everybody, right? So, like, my best friend, I can say her name, Michelle. She's deceased now, but she was going to school at FAMU. I think, yeah, she was a grade ahead of me, I think. So I was, like, a senior in high school. I think she was a freshman at FAMU. And she, obviously close with her parents, told her parents that I was up there, like, in Tallahassee. And of course I'm visiting her, but I'm also visiting my boyfriend at the time, right? He had his own house in Tallahassee, living thug life. Like, that's a whole nother life. That's a whole, listen, okay? Your girl lived a life, but, like, he was definitely, like, doing illegal shit, just dope, drugs and shit like that, selling drugs, and just a street nigga, pretty much. He was a street nigga, right? So I can get the concern where my best friend was concerned. So she called and tell, I guess, her family, and then they, of course, tell, because her dad is a pastor of the church that my mom was going to, right? So, like, of course, word got around back to my mom. Oh, Danielle is up in Tallahassee. You know, I'm in high school at this time. I'm a senior. She's in Tallahassee. And granted, I was living with my dad at that time in Jacksonville. And the hills up in Tallahassee, seeing this guy, right? Who knows what kind of descriptor she put on the guy, right? But it made it real bad. So bad to the extent where, like, I get a call, like, oh, what are you doing up there? Da, da, da. We're coming up there right now. We're like, oh, shit, right? So my mom called my dad, and they drive up there to Tallahassee to get my ass. When my mom arrives, I think I'm at my best friend's place at this time. She grabs a broom, yo. She grabs a broom, and she's, like, going at me with the broom. And I'm just like, come on, I'm okay. Like, whatever. But anyway, I said that to say that, like, while I'm talking to my mom in her final moments, and I had to bring that story up. I was just like, in the broom when you came to Tallahassee, and I was like, I love you, you know. I know she loved me. She did the best that she could to raise me, you know. Of course, I reflected in my story, my autobiography, American Dreamer. I've reflected that I think my mom's discipline was very harsh towards me. I've talked about this in my vlogs where I felt like I had been abused as a child. But of course, hindsight and me having my awareness and just knowing truth, I know that it wasn't necessarily my mom's intention to do that. Like, she only did to me and my sister what was done to her. And it was just a traditional practice, right? But when I'll say a little bit briefly, but, like, in terms of the discipline, like, so the ritual was, and it could be anything, yo. We got beat for any and everything. My mom would have us strip down, literally, like, take off all our clothes. The only thing we will still be wearing is panties. That's it. No bra. And at the time, this was, like, prepubescent, so I didn't have breasts. But I got beat from, like, how as young as 4 or 5. Like, mom, she's always done this. She's always used beatings to discipline us. Always, right? So it's my earliest memory is like 4 years old, but it could have went before then. But anyway, so strip down, lie down, and she would use, like, extension cord. I showed you guys before, like, real cable cord, extension cord, leather belt, right? Her favorite was, like, all three, really. But the cable cord, extension cord, them shits hurt, yo. And we would get beat and just beat. It was like a whole fucking ritual until she got tired. And of course, we get up with welts on our body. no matter the time of year. And it was like a secret where we could not show it. Like, we go out in public, we had to wear turtlenecks, even in the summertime, turtlenecks to school. We have webs on our fucking neck, had to wear turtlenecks to school, right? Even in the summertime, to hide it. And she would threaten, like, yeah, if you go tell, you know, you can call the white man. She would say that, like, call the white man, call the white man. He just gonna do you worse than I did you. He gonna put his foot in your neck, right? But anyway, so that was the childhood. So, like, in my last words to my mom, when my sister called me and I was at Penn Station with this guy, right, after we left our date, but we left the restaurant or whatever, on a date. And of course, it's like Penn Station loud as fuck, all the announcements and things like that. So I'm trying to hear, it's on speaker so I can hear her better. I can hear what, it's nothing really to hear. I guess just she wasn't responding. But anyway, interesting I said that. But yeah, so I said my final words to her. I said I love you, and I said I've not finished my words. I was like, all right, thank you, Unique, thank you. I told my sister thank you, and that was that. Literally, like, almost 2 minutes later, I get a call from my sister's husband, and he's telling me she just wanted to hear your voice. I said, did she transition? He said, yeah, she just did. She just wanted to hear your voice. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, a lot of things can amaze me. I've been wowed by a lot of things, but and I don't know what my mom felt, you know. Who knows? Like, when she heard my voice, I don't know. She said she just wanted to hear my voice, and then she took her last breath, and that was it. And I feel at peace. When he called me back to say that she's want to hear my voice, a smile was across my face. And the guy, I for some reason, subconscious, I want to say my partner. I want to keep saying that. It's like, but I don't know, deliberately I choose not to say that. Because, yeah, I'm annoyed at his ass right now. Right now? As if there's a later. Anyway, so he's standing there, but even like he can like I smiled. He asked me how I was feeling. I'm like, I felt good. It was a warm feeling in my body that came through me. I just felt good, like relieved. I'm like, oh my gosh, like she just wanted to hear my voice, and I just felt at peace with everything. And we got on the train, the Long Island Railroad train, and to head back to his place. Now, granted, before this, 2 weeks prior was Mother's Day, right? My mom went with my aunt, her sister. I think they went to Cocoa Beach or someplace in Florida. You know, they always travel. That's just them. They always travel. They go different places or whatever. And so they were spending Mother's Day out there. And I called my mom. I spoke to her. And she was responsive, of course, like, but she just wasn't her full self. Her speech was kind of slurred. She was kind of, just dragging. Like, her energy was very low. And I did ask her because she had just went to a funeral. I said, well, not funeral, sorry. She went to a wedding, my little cousin's wedding, and I asked her, how was the wedding? She's like, it was nice. I said, what color? Did my cousin wear? She's like, she wore white. So she was able to say that, extend that conversation. And I told her I love her, and she told me she loved me back. My mom transitioned Friday night. I spent that night with this guy, right? My date. And he kept his word because the agreement was like, listen, we're not having sex, okay? That's not the space I'm in. We're not having sex. And he respected that boundary. And with him respecting that boundary, I think it drew me even closer to him. I felt even more connected to this guy Because I'm like, wow, he could have. And he even said that. He was like, I could have. Listen, I bet you could have. But then what? Like, wouldn't that be kind of like taking advantage, right? Especially given that I am very vulnerable, but I chose that. I let him know. So we were cuddling. Like, that night was very special to me. I felt like my cousin called me after she got the news of my mom transition. So we at his place at this point, and I'm talking to my younger female cousin, and like she's consoling me, and we're like, she's funny though. Like we're all funny at times, but like she's making jokes. She was like, yeah. She calls my mom Aunt May. That's my mom's middle name, May. My mom grew up in the freaking civil rights movement, just throwback. And so she's like, yeah, Aunt May, would be telling me that you don't need to be sending the money to that man, because my cousin is married to a man that's in prison or whatever. And I guess she sends some money, and my mom always the kind of person keep shit real. She gonna let your ass know. That's where I get honest from. Like, she don't sugarcoat shit. She don't sugarcoat shit, nothing, nada. And so she just tell it straight like it is. And I thought that was funny that my cousin shared that. But yeah, we kicked it on the phone for a little bit, and she was just recapping, how my mom was in her last days, because she also was at my sister's house helping out with my mom. And so, yeah, that was Friday night. And so Saturday comes, right? And we wake up together. And we're talking. Like, I definitely appreciate the intimacy that we share. And we're talking and saying that we didn't have sex. Like, I did gain a bit more respect for him and trust, right? We're like, this whole process, we're building trust. I'm gaining more trust, right? Towards him. Just seeing how he handles one of the most delicate parts of my life. Like, my mom just freaking passed away, yo. That is pretty significant. And just seeing how he was there. He didn't have to be. And granted, I chose him. I chose to be with him. Don't get it mistaken. There are other people in New York. I have people. But I can be away. That's just who I am. I can be away. So there are other people I could have spent time with, right? I chose not to, I felt like he was the one to spend that time with and to offer that support. I wanted his support for many reasons that I'm about to get into. So granted, like, I'll give him his credit. He can be dominant. Is he dominant? He could be dominant, right? And so I wanted that dominant energy around me. I wanted that. I wanted to alchemize this energy with my mom, and knowing that she was going to be trans. I knew it. The doctors don't have to tell me that. My sister don't have to tell. Like, I know. Such a time as this would be happening. I knew it. And so, yeah. We woke up together, and we were feeling each other physically. He was on this thing that, I need to break down your barriers because I'm always guarded. That's just me, and that's just how I am. I'm guarded, right? Of course, he doesn't like that. And if we're, trying to build intimacy, that's counterproductive, right? Like, how can you get to know a person if that's the intent, which it is, that we're dating, but meanwhile, like, I'm guarded, right? The lighting is a bit weird. Maybe I should turn it down like that. So yeah, like, that was his thing. Like, so Saturday morning comes and we're talking, and he asks me how I'm feeling. Like, I'm okay, and he has this thing, and he's like, he just wants me to be free, right, and less guarded and open. And of course, I want the same thing. It's not like he's asking me something and ushering me into a space that I don't want to be. Nobody can do that, right? Because you have to just know me to know, like, I am my own person. Always been, right? Nobody can control me, not even my own mom. She tried many times, but it's just, I'm just my own person, right? And so, of course, I like a bigger part of me. There, I would say maybe like 98%, maybe a little small 2% was just like, no. But then, like a bigger part, maybe even stronger than that, maybe like 99.9. Like maybe all of me. Maybe there was just a little whisper saying no. And it's always that. That's always gonna be there, like that tug and pull, right? Tug and toe in me, like, yeah, no. It's weird, but I wanted it. I wanted him, honestly. I just wanted closeness. I wanted connection. I wanted to feel the hands of a man, and he's there. You know, we're there together. And he's saying to me all the things that sound so sweet to my ear that I need, like I want to hear. So I feel like, of course, our experience is definitely co-created. It's not like, oh, he did this and that. I don't really look at it like that, though there were some things that he did. And I'm like, whoa, didn't expect that. But I like, a big part of me kind of likes surprises too at the same time. So as it goes, it's like, he's saying that he wants, you know, to break down my barriers, and that means so many different things on so many different levels. And of course, we're in bed, right? We're in bed together. I'm clothed, we're clothed, you know, but he wants me to be undressed. And we did this dance for a little while. I don't know how long, maybe an hour in the bed. It's just this dance where, you know, he wants this, and I'm just like, I'm hesitant, right? Not to take off my clothes. I don't want to be that vulnerable. Yes, I do want to be vulnerable with you, but do I want to be that vulnerable? Right? And given, the last time I was intimate with a man was January 2021, and we're in May 2023. So it's just like, of course, I'm very guarded in protecting the sanctity of my space, my flower, the purity that I have rebirthed within myself. Right? Very intentional. I'm taking spiritual baths and just move with intention over my body so that I could purify myself, cleanse myself, and prepare myself for that which is going to happen with that chosen person that is destined to happen with. Right? So the dance, I kind of like the dance. I just like that dance. And not just that dance, but that's the dance that I play often in all my relationships. It's a tug of war dance. And I'm filling them out through this dance. Like, is this where I need to be? Do I really want to open myself up, right? So it gets to a point through all this dance, and he's, his objective is to see me unclothed and just for us to cuddle naked, right? And I'm like, okay, I know sex is going to happen after that. I just know it is. Who takes off their clothes and lies in a bed with a person they're attracted to? All the stars are aligned at this point, right? It's nothing in the universe saying no at this point. Everything is aligned. How do you get to that point and not have intercourse, right? I'm going to tell you how this shit fucking unfolded. So, I didn't want to take off. He's telling me I didn't want him to do that. Like, I mean, that's just in general. Like, I like for men to take the lead in all aspects. Even when it comes to the sexual intimacy part, like, take off my clothes. That shit is sexy as fuck. Yeah, and he did that. Like, cause I sat up and I said something about something that I was triggered by that he said. And I think he was just like, fuck this shit. He stood up and he just like started taking off my shirt. And then my shorts and my underwear, and I'm like, damn. And he's looking at my body, and of course I'm very self-conscious of my body. He's looking at my body, and then one thing leads to another, and it's not even one thing leads to another, really. It's not even that. It's just like things were slow. Everything kind of got slowed down, and we were just cuddling. We were just cuddling there, you know. Did I feel afraid? I think I wanted to feel afraid, and I was even questioning my own emotions. I'm like, why am I not afraid? I was not afraid. I mean, in terms of feeling anxious, I think I try to make myself feel that way. But I didn't feel anxious. I was not afraid. I didn't feel anxious. I'm like, why don't I feel anxious? I am completely vulnerable. I'm completely naked here. He's naked too. He took off his clothes. But we're just lying there, holding each other. He's holding me. And I'm just like, I kind of wish that I could cry at this point. You just came in. Hi. I think I may be getting your comment late. Some of the views is not showing. Some of the comments may not be showing, but I think I see yours. I am okay. Thanks for asking. I'm just this video, as I said at the start of the video, is about me speaking about the things that have transpired over this past week, much of which I looked through a spiritual lens to interpret. Everything is spiritual in my book. Everything. So we're holding each other. We're at the point where this is post-date. This is after me hearing about my mom's transition that Friday night, and Saturday morning happens and we wake up together. No sex has happened. He wants me to be vulnerable, to be less guarded. He said these things before, though, this point. But he's really, like, in that space. And I'm like, I want the same thing. I just maybe need some help, you know? But he made it very simple and easy, right? And he took that move. And he took off my clothes, and I'm lying there, and, like, we're holding each other, and that was a good space. I liked it. I think I was confused as to my emotions, though, because I think, like I said, I expected more heightened emotion in a sense, like, you know. But it was a calm. It was a sense of calm and a sense of peace, which is a good thing. I'm saying this. It was a good thing. I didn't cry. I kind of wanted to cry, but I didn't have the tears to, which is a good thing. Because if I cried, then that means that that's not good, right? Like, that means that my body is saying, like, what are you doing, Danielle? Like, you're not supposed to be, like, doing this, right? But I did not cry. And I think I was confused at myself, like, why am I not in tears? Why is my body not shivering out of fear of something bad happening to me? What did you miss? Well, you're going to have to go back and watch the whole entire thing. I'm sorry. You know, like, for those who really watch my videos know I can be very verbose. And I talk. I'm a storyteller. It is what it is. But yeah, I didn't feel that in that space. And so... But I'm also, like, in an anticipatory state, too, wondering, like, what's going to happen next? Because at that point, I wanted him to be in full control. That's just how I am. Like, I like when a man dominates. I'm just like, oh, my gosh, this is my moment right here, right? Who knows what's going to happen? But then he asked me, he asked me what the fuck I want. And here we go. Like, of course, this is the alchemizing part. My mom transitioned that previous night, Friday night, and of course, I mean, what better thing to ask for but a spanking, a beating, okay? What my mom used to do, like, that may creep some of y'all out. It's not creepy to me, though. I get it, right? It's just a transfer of energy. I get it. And so that was like my closure. That shit solidified it. And so he did not hesitate. When I told him a beating, he asked me, what do I want? This is like we're cuddling. I'm naked. He's naked. He didn't even penetrate me, didn't touch me in that way. Like he could have penetrated me with his fingers. Like none of that. We were just holding each other's bodies, and he asked me, what do I want? And I told him, a spanking. And he gets up and goes to his closet. And I think I didn't quite know, right? I had a hint like, okay, he's about to get a belt. But I didn't know until I saw the belt. He said, okay, I'm glad you're alive. I've been watching your conversations. I like them. You do? Well, thank you. It's good that you caught my live and you're not afraid. Some people, I think, are intimidated by me. And I get a lot of inbox messages of people asking me, oh, can you tell me about yourself? And tell me about your ethnic background. I find it weird. Like you're talking about a person that vlogs, and I don't want to hash too much on that, but like a person like myself, I vlog in in my inbox, right? Like, I am here. Like, this is me. So not much is hidden, though it could be to the untrained eye in a way. But anyway, so like he gets up and goes to the closet and like, oh my gosh, he comes back with a belt and I'm just like, ooh. But this is the first time. I don't know the intensity that he's going to come with. I can only imagine though that. So then he directs me and tells me like to turn over, and I'm like, okay. And right away, like he delivers the first hit, and I'm just like, that shit hurt, right? That shit hurt. Which he says that it was to wake me up. That shit woke my ass up, all right. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm not intimidating. Okay. And so, like, he delivered the first hit, and then, like, the second and the third and the fourth came after that. And so, I'm like, I don't know what to feel. I just know it was painful. Like, if I felt the pain there in my ass, or on my ass cheeks, rather. Everything happened so quickly after that. I'm trying to recap, right? Everything happened so quickly. So that happened, and then I don't know what was next. I turned over. I think we were kissing. I think we were kissing. And okay, so I know at some point, like he grabbed me, right? He grabbed my neck, and that's not really unusual, right? That's just a form of dominance. But then the intensity at which he grabbed my neck, it was alarming. I was like, whoa. Like I felt like his strength. It was a legit choke, right? So I'm gonna say strangulation. I know I could not breathe if I wanted to, right? And I'm just like, am I being fucking choked? Like, who told this guy that I like this? Like, who told him that I like to be? I mean, I like a lot of things related to BDSM. Of course, I like spankings. I made that very clear. Spankings, I like bondage, but choking, that's never been my thing. I haven't been choked, at least not to my recollection. Well, I think I have. Well, that's a whole nother story, but yeah. So the choking, right? So it was like he did it twice, and I felt his strength, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at him, and then he's like, he grabbed my chin. I remember he just grabbed my chin really tight. He was like, just like asserting. I felt like he was asserting his power over me. And he said, well, he was casting spells too, right? I get it because I cast my own spells, but not really though. I'm not much of a spell caster like that, but whatever. So like he's like saying to me in my eyes, obviously like I'm very vulnerable, unclothed. He's over me and he's like grabbing me. He's just like, yeah. If I catch you when you're with somebody else, a man or a woman, this is what you're gonna feel. And I'm just like, I'm trying to remember, was this after he choked me? Either way, I felt very disempowered. But I felt very, like, it's odd because this is what I like though. So I know for some of you guys watching this, you're like, oh, hell no. Like, even the video that I responded to, that I posted that went viral, of the guy who tells the woman that is at his house, and the woman is like, I'm just gonna go home, right? And then he's like, no, I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna do. All right, I'm gonna finish cooking, or you're gonna sit your ass down. I'm gonna finish cooking. We're gonna watch a movie or something like that, or you're gonna get this dick. Simply put, right? And a lot of people's reaction is like, oh my gosh, like he's abusive, and oh my gosh, like he's this, that, and the other. But if that happens between two consenting adults, then that's just what they like, right? That's just what a woman responds to. And I know for me, yes, of course, I do. I talk about, I mean, as you guys who have watched this video thoroughly, or who have watched my other videos, then you kind of can put two and two together to know how parts of my childhood definitely helped to shape who I am today, especially as it relates to my taste in a certain dynamic in my adult relationships. Yes, I like somewhat of a sadist, but sadists can be scary. I won't even say sadist. I definitely like dominant men. I like alpha men. Now, sadism can parallel those characteristics too. And I was telling this guy, like, you are a sadist, and he's like, no, you're just trying to project that onto me because that's what you want to see in me. And I'm like, honestly, sadism is a whole nother, like, granted, yes, I'm a masochist, right? So let's be clear. I'm a masochist in the sense that I do get pleasure from pain, meaning like discipline spankings, right? But to be clear, because there are different variations of sadists. You got sadists that don't even have to physically administer any kind of pain to you physically. It's all mental. Nah, I'm not on that shit. Granted, I do like the power exchange. I'm turned on by that. Somewhat humiliation, but not extreme forms. Like I said, all this is on a gradient, you know? It's a spectrum of all of these characteristics. A spectrum of dominant, submission, sadomasochism, and, you know, yeah, right? So I think with that gradient, depending on my comfortability on that spectrum of those characteristics, coincides with my degree of a sense of safety, right? And feeling secure. In that, the more safe and more secure I feel, then it makes room for me to go up a notch, right? Or me to be more tolerable of my partner going up a notch. It's all contingent upon safety, trust, security. Those are big, okay? Anybody who truly, real masters at these kinds of practices, right? People who've done this for years and they're very well versed in this, they know that everything is contingent upon safety. If a woman doesn't feel safe, you know, that's why we have these riffraffs. And like, even with that happening, right? And especially the choking part, I did not expect that. I told him, like, you know, after I got up from that, I got up and wait, I forget to mention. So the choking and then this part, right? And then him asserting like, okay, you're mine, emphasizing that, right? He gets up. And that was the end of it. I'm like, I kind of was expecting penetration, but that didn't happen. And so I'm thrown off. Now, I consider myself to be very smart, okay? But I'm like, damn, it can be a sexy, right? When a person when a man outsmarts me, I like that shit. You know, like he 10 steps ahead of me. I'm like, didn't see that shit coming, right? But no, in that moment, because I was so vulnerable and because at the same time, ovulating, anybody know a woman's body, know when she's ovulating, yeah, she's more horny. That's just how nature has it, right? So that it's conducive to procreation. So I'm like, everything is aligned. Just think about the alignment of everything, right? My mom transitioning, me being in that space of vulnerability, which is much needed, right? And creates this space to draw me in closer, right? To a person that, yes, I do like, I'm attracted to. Meanwhile, I'm ovulating. And if you get it in this way, right? And thinking about rebirth, regeneration, transformation, right? And the cycle of things, especially when it comes to the cycle of death and the cycle of life, it's almost like prime opportunity for that. When a person transitions and a person in your family transitions, that boom, another life is created. And so in my mind, I was thinking that like, oh, it could be a prime opportunity to recreate life. Imagine that. Like when my mom transitions, then boom, I'm pregnant. And 9 months later, around her birthday, which is in February, a baby comes, right? Had it been divine timing and divine alignment, and that's what sometimes makes me question things, right? Because if it's not meant to be, if it's not divine, it's not divine, right? But I was thinking that's just where my headspace was. So of course I'm open, your girl wide open, ready. But then he gets up and it was like, he's looking at me like, yeah. And I felt like he snatched my fucking soul, yo. I felt like he snatched my soul. And at first I was confused. At first I was, confused. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Are you kidding me? Or I just knew that we were going to have sex. I just knew. Because, like, he was fully erect. This is something that he had expressed that he wanted. He asked me, like, what do you want? You want me inside of you? He's speaking all that fucking good, dominant shit. You want me inside of you? Tell me where you want me to put it. Tell me where you want me to put it. I'm like, shit, I want you inside of me? Yes. Right? And he gets up and he walks away and he starts to get dressed. And when he was, like, getting dressed. I'm like, it wasn't, like, playing. Like, you know, some motherfuckers, like, try to play, like, pretending, like, yeah. Nah. I knew that when he got up and he started to put on his underwear and his shorts, like, it was the real deal. Like, he was like, yeah, it was serious. And I'm like, Now, of course, I studied this to myself. So I'm like, I knew exactly what he was doing. I needed to hear him say it. I know exactly what that shit was about. You know? It was harvesting my energy. He was harvesting my energy in that sense. And like he says, putting a spell, but taking more control of the situation so that, yes, now I'm in even a more vulnerable position. Not that I wasn't already fucking vulnerable, okay? So I went from, like, feeling like, what the hell is this? Confused to, like, kind of upset, annoyed. And the thing about me, and I don't even know if I felt hurt. Like, I wanted to feel hurt. I didn't even have tears. I had no tears. Why? Because what am I crying for? Like, there's nothing to cry for. I feel like a lot of women probably have not been in that situation. Because that again is a different dynamic of things. Most men probably have never done that to a woman. You guys watching this, you probably have never, unless of course you into that kind of shit, right? And I knew it was just him playing upon that dynamic, right? That power exchange, and that was just a way for him to salvage even more of the power. When I say I felt like literally empty, I had nothing else. I'm empty. My soul is snatched, literally. But then as the day passes, right? So he's like, what did he do? He get up, I think he was making tea. And the time is progressing. I'm still there at his place, but then I'm slowly kind of regaining my consciousness. I felt like, damn, did I just die? Right? Oh. Today, I think definitely is the day that my egg is being released. I can feel it. I'm very attuned to my body. So, like, my body does things to let me know where I'm at in my cycle. And I have, like, kind of pain in my back. And my stomach feels like a little contraction. But, Yeah, so yeah, as the time was progressing, I was slowly like regaining my um power back or consciousness back to fully make sense of what the hell just happened and how I should respond to this. Like, thinking, yo, what the fuck do I need to do in this situation? Do I need to even be mad so I can put on my clothes and fucking bounce or cuss his ass out? Or what the hell? How do I respond to this, right? Part of me is like, no, like, this is what you like. You like this. I did. But I'm talking with him like, yo, what just happened? And he's looking at me like, yeah, I got you. Looking at me like, yeah, I had to do that to show you you're mine. He kept saying, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine. And I'm like, okay. And y'all know I've said this before, like long before. I made posts, you can check my Facebook page where I've actually stated being owned is better than being loved. This is something I do believe in wholeheartedly. I stand by this. It is better than being loved. I said that. Some people don't really know quite what that means, but it is. And to hear a man say that, to know that it comes from a genuine place, anybody can say that, of course. Anybody, a fucking baby can say some shit like literally anybody, right? That's all I'm saying. But to hear like a man say that and to know that it's coming from a genuine space, like that resonates with me, and that's kind of what I respond to. And I've heard that before, of course. And I had to kind of like this whole process. I'm going to definitely wrap this video up because it goes into this point where. And I did kind of skip a part, but I'll come back to it. It goes into this whole... Damn, what the fuck? It goes into this whole point. I got thrown off. I just got thrown off because I just thought, like, okay. So, yeah, no, he did not penetrate me, but he did tease me with his erect penis by rubbing it up and down on my clitoris and the opening of my vagina. He did not penetrate me, though. At least, I don't know. It's just into necrophilia or something, but, so yeah, that was that. But yeah. Oh, so yeah, like I definitely have heard those words before of a man saying that, like we were in the kitchen, I'm asking like what just happened, and he was like, yeah, you're mine, and I'm like, okay. I definitely heard those words before, and as time is progressing that morning, Saturday morning, I'm trying to make sense of everything, like where do I place him, where do I place myself, what how do I respond to this, like, right? And so of course I can't help but be reminded of my last serious relationship with my ex. He was also Caribbean, and he would say things like that, and he definitely owned my ass, but I, not without my consent, of course. I allow him to. This is what I wanted. And I know it's just like experience teaches us, and one may say, okay, that's traumatic, and I own different parts of that relationship that were traumatic. I admit. He asked me in a conversation, like, do you think, and this is, when was this? This is before this happened, I think. He was like, do you still carry your trauma or something like that? And I was like, granted, yes, I have experienced trauma, but I do believe I'm healed from it. Now, granted, a person can be healed from trauma, but at the same time, still, the thing about trauma is that it's so powerful, it never really leaves, right? So yes, there's treatment for trauma. There's healing that comes with the trauma, but that's the thing about trauma. If anybody know what trauma is, it's life-changing, right? You will forever be changed, and there's no undoing that, okay? There's no undoing that, and I think that it serves a functional purpose in terms of one's survival, so that you are protected. It's a self-protective mechanism that happens. The things that happens within our bodies, within our minds, within our DNA, after we experience trauma, those things need to happen, right? So that those memories then are formed, but it's the processing of those memories, right? And how that shapes our body and how we respond to different things. And the processing obviously is something that's where therapy comes in, is the reprocessing of what happened, because our body naturally processes things. That's like a natural adaptation that's going to happen on its own without anybody doing anything. And those memories are like implanted like in our DNA, right? When I'm talking about like pain bodies, for example, it's just like things that it changes, alters our DNA, literally. Our mind, our brain is changed. Like the brain of a trauma person who experienced trauma, not even direct brain trauma, but just traumatic experiences, their brain has changed, right? Their amygdala in their brain functions differently, right? That's the part of our brain that is responsible for the fight or flight response, right? Which is necessary to one's survival, right? But, they say that trauma victims, people who have endured like severe life-threatening types of trauma, like physical abuse or sexual abuse, like may have overactive amygdalas, which means like, it makes sense though, right? That when they do get triggered or something kind of reminds them of that traumatic experience, they might be out the door or they might be fighting your ass. Either one, right? They out the door or they might be fighting your ass, but they getting the fuck out, right? Or they creating a sense of safety for themselves. So he did ask me that, and yes, I believe that I've done therapy. I've been through therapy, but at the same time, like, I embrace my trauma, and it is what it is. And I know that, and you have to embrace it because you just forever change. It's not no undoing it. It's there, right? It's just a matter of how you move forward in life and adapting to what has happened to you. A woman that has been sexually abused, there's no way like, oh, well, you're just going to be just like made brand new, right? You're going to go to therapy and you're going to be made like brand new compared to a person that's never experienced that. You're going to be just like this woman that has never experienced that. She will never be like that kind of way. No matter how much fucking therapy, she will never be like a woman that has never experienced that, because it changes your DNA, point blank, period. People need to understand that much, right? What therapy does is making a person aware of how you respond to certain situations, how you respond to it, being mindful of your triggers, right? Knowing, okay, oh, now I'm being triggered. So you'll know in that moment, right? And then you'll be able to deal with that situation more effectively in a healthy way, But it takes constant mental effort and energy. It's exhausting, if anything, right? It's almost like you have to create a new filter in your body and your brain and how you process events, because the mind, the brain naturally is going to be hypersensitive. Hypervigilance, right, is one of the main symptoms of PTSD. You're going to be hypersensitive to your environment. Like I said, that can be very instrumental and functional to one's advantage, though. Meaning, whatever happened to a person who has experienced trauma, that shit will never happen again. It should never, because you have a higher threshold. Your threshold, like, you're so sensitive, right? Your ability to detect any type of threat is heightened to the max, that if threat does happen to you, it may happen because, okay, you have no control over it, right? No way of dealing with it, or you want it to happen, if anything. And I think that's how I alchemize my experiences, and I've said this before, in that I deal with my mom's physical abuse, right, and the beatings, even the verbal abuse. Like, I deal with that in a sense that I create it, or allow it. I won't say I create it, but I allow it, it to happen. One may say it's toxic, but listen, I think it's just, we all have our way of coping with life and dealing with things, and that's just how definitely I have moved in navigating my own experiences. And for me, it feels good. It feels natural. It is a fine line, which I pointed out to this guy. Like, that's a drawback, because the line is so fine between abuse and fetish. I even said that in my video I made about, fetish versus abuse. It's a fine line. So you definitely got to be careful. And it really involves, open communication, just being with somebody that you trust, you have this understanding with. I'm definitely got to wrap this video because I got shit to do. I haven't really eaten breakfast yet. But it's like, it does, overall, it does make for difficult relationships. That's an understatement. It makes for difficult relationships. And this is a lifelong thing. Like I said, no matter how much therapy a person get, it just makes for difficult relationships, and it takes a level of understanding, and trust. And going forward, like, I've already made that decision that I don't, and I know it may seem weird, right? Given the things that have happened, but it's just like, I find a sense of safety. Sometimes it's just being alone. Not even sometimes. That dates back to when I was an even little kid. Like, I've always kind of been by myself. But as an adult, like, it's like, unless a man really, you have to really get me. Either we get each other or we don't. Like, either it's something that there's a space, a safe space that's created not only for me, but for you too. Because we all come with our shit. Right? It's just a matter of finding someone who is attuned, and maybe who is just, who's like your soulmate in a sense, like who can match what you bring in all aspects. That's when it works, because you just understand each other, and like I said, what's understood don't really need to be explained. But wow, all I can say is wow. And this is just a recap over the past week. Not even a full week has passed. Almost. Well, yeah, tonight will be. I got the call Tuesday night. Today is Tuesday. What's today? May 30th? Tuesday. So yeah, a week, right? But just think, this is all in 1 week. Right? And we're talking about a woman that has lived 39 years of life. When I say I have stories for days, we all do, right? That's what makes life so interesting. But I felt a need to do this video because I just wanted to put certain things out into the universe, right? Now that I've released it and it's out there in the universe, whoever watches video, watch the video. You take it as you may. But going back to my mom, and of course I get the call from my sister today, which I actually told her that I wanted her to keep me updated on the funeral arrangement so I can make a decision. And I told him, yes, I did say, granted, I did say, right? As my mom was on her dying bed in the hospital, like, okay, I may not make it in here. I'm not about to make it to see a person die. But I will be there for the funeral. I've said that to her and to different family. I know I said that. Listen. But it was yesterday. Yesterday, I definitely was in my emotions. I definitely was annoyed. I'm not going to go into why. But I definitely was fucking annoyed at that person that I had been on a date with. And I'm like, listen, you got me fucked all the way up. I would just say this. I felt like very disrespected in a sense. Was it intentional? No, but I feel like he got his ways too. He got his ways about him, toxic ways. And that's why I told him, listen, I already see in advance this shit not going to work. How and why? Because listen, I know me and I see you. Listen, I see right through the facade, okay? I see right through the representative. I see right through everything that you don't want me to see. I see it. Know it. I see it. And that combined, you and me, that stuff, that shit ain't gonna work. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Now, granted, we both being that, yes, we may want to be with someone. We're at that point. We want to be with someone. We can want to be with someone all fucking day. That don't mean that we need to do that. And if we are, right, because we are giving in to what is happening was bound to happen anyway in the universe, right? As above, so below. Sometimes we try to fight nature. You really can't. You can try, but you're gonna lose. You fight nature all you want. What's gonna happen is just gonna happen. There's a pull for a reason. There's a reason why I think we are magnetically pulled towards each other. Okay, that I don't think that happened by happenstance, right? Though I can say that yes, everything happens for a reason, but it's not to dismiss the fact that it is something that is happening very purposefully in the universe. You know, if anything, that's what I'm purporting, that it is happening divinely as it should. The question is it over? That's the question. I mean, part of me, even last night as he reached out, this is after I left his place abruptly yesterday. I'm like, nah, this shit ain't gonna fucking work. First of all, the energy was all the way up. I'm about to definitely wrap this video up, but like I did visit him. Today is what? Tuesday. Was it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday night, spend the night Monday. I visited him Sunday night, and I'm just like, let's don't play with me, right? It was just like, okay, Sunday night, and then, you know, the whole idea was that I go and he cook, and he, you know, teach me some things about cooking his type of dishes, right? Given that he's Caribbean, and I'm like, I'm open. I'm always open to learning. I'm a cultural fanatic, so I love to immerse myself in different cultures. That's the reason I love New York City so much, because it's just this big salad bowl of different cultures. I love it, right? I'm open to it. I'm very receptive to that. I am a learner, just naturally speaking. Here's a quick story. So, like, you know, he's showing me, we're in the kitchen, and like, you know, he has this dish in mind that he's prepared, like getting ready to put together fish, and I'm like, he's pulling out all these different ingredients, a lot of different vegetables and things like that, right? And it's just the making fun for me. Like, listen, don't insult me. That's one thing. Like, I feel like you make a joke. Of course, you can make a joke, but don't sit up here and insult me in that sense that as if you know everything, right? No one knows everything, and he makes a joke about a particular vegetable, which I don't often see. I've seen it before, but I don't often see in that form, right? I eat it, but I don't often see in that form, and you're going to make a joke of, like, so yes, I felt insulted. That shit pissed me off. And just other things like he was saying and doing that was just irking my goddamn nerves. Right? Like the whole conversation at the freaking table, after we were sitting down and eating, and he's just talking about his colleagues at work. He works in finance, and he's talking about Indian men dating white women, and white women are the trophy, and all this bullshit that I feel like has nothing to do with us, right? For me, I like to make things present centered. If I am with you, and my time is very valuable, right? Appreciate that, right? And let's be in the present moment. Granted, those things are important, and maybe somehow I'm like, how did that even come in your purview? Like, why is that even a topic of conversation in this present moment? I'm at your place, at your table, eating, Sunday night. You're talking about Indian men dating white women, right? I'm like, okay, are you obsessed with this idea that, you know, I mean, I'm into race politics too, I get it, but I feel like there's a time and place for everything, and we're building, this is a very intimate moment here between us. Like, listen, we ain't even fully solidified our trust between each other, right? And yes, that topic, anything related to like interracial stuff and politics is very, come on, trigger warning, right? It's not that I can't have a conversation about things like that. Yes, we can. But I think it's important to be mindful at the same time. And that I don't think he is. Like, be strategic in knowing, like, okay, this conversation is going to ruffle some feathers. Like, and especially how he does things. Like, he's saying things in a way that, come on, you know it's triggering. Like, I feel like he has a tendency to like If I say something that makes him feel insulted, not intentional though, but he feels jealous, right? Like, for example, I was talking about, I work with this Indian. Well, it's a lot of Indians where I work, right? But anyway, the nurse on my team, he's Indian, he's married, but he's inviting me out, for drinks and to hang out, and I have not gone out. I've not gone out, and he's like, oh yeah, he may, want to have sex. Yeah, you want to have sex? And I'm like, okay, I get it. You speaking from a male's perspective. That shit ain't fucking happening. That shit is, we were talking about mixing work and pleasure. That's what we're talking about. And I'm like, mixing our personal life, our business life. I'm like, I don't do that, right? That's how the conversation, I think, started. And I gave an example of like how I don't do that. And not just men have invited me out, women too have invited me. Like, I don't. There's a white woman invited me. I just, first of all, I don't really hang white people like that. Anyway, you know me, like, nah. Right? But I just don't do that. And so, yeah, that evolved into like him twisting it and making it about like all the different varieties of women he's dated, right? I feel like a lot of, he don't realize, but I see. I not only pay attention to the content of what people say, but also what's driving that, right? And I get that he was just saying things to stroke his own ego, to make himself, like, puff himself up, right? Which is indication that his ass feels insecure. And I point that out, like, I see, like, all over you. We're all walking insecurities as I see it. Some people are very good at masking their insecurities in other people. But it's to me, it's very apparent. That's one thing that really stands out when a person is insecure. Like I do this for a living, right? And you can try to be pompous and arrogant, but that's just another face of insecurity, right? And that's the kind of face that he wears, and it kind of bleeds through his communication and the things that he chooses deliberately, whether conscious, you may not even know he's doing it or whatever, but I'm onto it, right? And I just pointed it out to him, right? And he's annoyed. Because I'm like, okay, I see that you're very, like, focused on white women and men of different races chasing success through their interpretation of how they can get it by being with the white woman, right? And I'm just like I felt like he was so focused on that, he was so zoned in on that like, is that you? Like, is that you? Right? Are you speaking vicariously through these examples of different men, Indian men that take on these white, like, is that you? Oh, no. It's like, I only date the black woman that, listen, he's talking about that was his past, but you dated outside your race. You said Russian or whatever. Listen, I don't care. That's my whole point. I don't care. I really don't care to hear that. Right? And I feel like it's not even that I don't care. It's like, what is the point of you bringing that into this table conversation here? We're having dinner. I can't even enjoy the fucking food that I wanted to try to enjoy. I can't even freaking enjoy it. If anything, I would prefer, and maybe I'm just very stickler for things. I am. It can work to my advantage, I think. It's a strength in many different areas, me being very stickler. But if anything, I imagine a great dinner date at his place with him cooking and me watching very intently and learning. Right, especially if I'm going to be in that position to do that, is that I want it just to be focused on us. Let's just talk about us. And maybe that's difficult. There's this saying, it kind of goes back to this saying, right? I don't know the exact words, but it's kind of in the ballpark of like, they're talking about wise people versus, the average person, but like the average people talk about things, or no, they talk about people, right? Like they're so focused on people that, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we are a reflection of each other, right? So you can talk about other people and it will still reflect back to yourself. But that's the reason why I try to bring it back to himself, right? You talking about all these peripheral things and other people, how does that relate to you? Because it does. right? How does it relate to you? Let's bring it to the here and now. Let's talk about us. I'm sitting here. What is the relevance? Because it's the reason why those people, those ideas of those people came here in the present moment in your dining room with me, right? All of this is created for a reason. Why? Right? And it's just to make it personal. And how does that bring us closer together? I mean, is he even thinking this? It made me question, what is his intention? Is your intention to bring us closer together? How is this conversation bringing us closer together? I just feel like he's not mindful of that. And that's what makes me feel like it definitely ain't going to work. I've given many examples and given him many opportunities to create a space. But I don't see it. How is, like, I can't imagine. And it makes me wonder subconsciously for him, does he even know, like, this is bringing us further apart? We're not coming together. It's just making me just feel disgusted at you. As a man, number one, and like, granted, I get that, listen, he's being transparent. I've seen him for who he is. Another part of him. I'm pretty sure there's many aspects of who he is. Right? Many different mirrors to open up. But I've seen enough, I feel like. Enough that I'm willing to digest, right? And enough that I really want to see. It's like, can I see some beauty in you? And I get that even after we left the dinner table and we're like sitting on his couch, right? And this is, where was this? This is Sunday night, right? Sunday night. He's like, yeah, you just point out all the negative about me. You're just like focused on the negative. I'm like, listen, I actually want to see the beauty. But I can't help but see what you're showing me. And what he's showing me is just negative shit. It's like, you're showing me your insecurities. You're showing me, he even was very transparent to say like his struggle and where he's at, like career-wise, and how he would like to be a trader, but obviously there's like a glass ceiling, and they only let certain people through that glass ceiling. And he was talking about how Indian men, they assimilate more to the white dominant culture so they can fit in and break through that glass ceiling, right? Which he was saying he's not willing to make that compromise. I get it. Like, I'm a black woman. I've been a black woman all my life, baby. If anybody I'm very attuned. I'm very, like, it should be clear, right? I get it. The whole dissertation, go read it for yourself, but was on black identity, acculturation, implicit race. I have a passion for this types of stuff, man. Not that I want to talk about this shit all the goddamn time, because it's going to be very draining, but I get it, right? So he's like being vulnerable, saying that, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just bad timing. Granted, my mom did just die. So maybe I think I'm in more of a position to receive support and nurturing. And I think maybe that was his attempt to be vulnerable, to express that part of where he's at. And I just wasn't in a space to offer support that I would be in. I'm usually that person to speak those positive affirmations, to uplift my black brothers, uplift my black sisters. I am, but it's like, it's so much happening, right? There's so much transformation, yo. And I feel it. Oh my gosh, do I feel it? That maybe in that moment, I couldn't even take myself outside of myself to be that person of support for him. But clearly, it seemed like he needed it. But I think, even beside that, I think he's also so very pompous too. Like, he's just like, yeah, like, I'm the freaking guy. I'm the king of the earth. I'm this, I'm that. Yes, you all of that. But I think to that point, though, what I've seen, a lot of people that tout themselves like that, they're doing that because they need to hear that for themselves. Like, they're saying these things because they need to hear that, because there is a deficit, right, that has surfaced. So they need to just say, oh, I'm God, I'm king. Like, he kept saying that, right? To like say these positive affirmations. because it warranted that. Like, he needed that in that moment. He's saying that like very boisterous to me. It was creating tension, as if I'm his enemy. So maybe he at that time was having a trauma reaction, right? I get it. I feel like that's the reason why there is this kind of gravitational pull that it's difficult for me to just really be done with his ass. Cause I resonate with his ass a lot, yo. I don't know any other way to say it. I get it. I definitely feel his pain. You know what I'm saying? I see it or whatever. And so I'm just like, okay. I sense that, yeah, like, yo, when you get to that point where you look like I'm your enemy, like that energy, I felt that energy. I felt that same energy in my last relationship, yo. And it was just like him feeling so under attack, not by me necessarily. I think I'm definitely a big trigger. I'm not even gonna lie about that. I know I'm a trigger, okay? I am going to trigger some things that is going to bring that shit out of your ass. That's just me. And I know that I was that for my ex. And that shit, it was toxic. But I can say this, in knowing that even with my last relationship, right, with my ex, like that it's an energy, that's a rage. Cause that motherfucker could have killed my ass, yo, for real, because it was like he had, like, being a black man dealt with so much in society in New York. The struggle, like, growing up the way he did. His dad really not being there. His mom being a single mother raising him. Him being being the parental figure for his mom, in a sense, like, just growing up real fast. And, like, all of this he just carries with him, right? It was a rage. And I, being a black woman, yes, we're black. We share that commonality. But I can't say I know what it's like to be a black man. Black men and black women are being gunned down in America. But I think black men are more targeted than black women. I can't say, I think that black women do have a little easier, but our struggle is a little different, though. Because if our counterpart, our man, is being attacked, then we are under attack. Black women do suffer. We suffer a different struggle. Yes, we do suffer. Hence the reason why there are a lot of single black mothers doing it by themselves. And have to walk down the street and see a black man deliberately choose to be with a white woman. What do you think that communicates to our subconscious mind? We dealing with our own shit, right? I get it, but I know that there are moments that happen between the black man and the black woman, because we all bring our own trauma, apart from childhood trauma, just race trauma, okay? There's trauma just attached to being black, melanated in this country, okay? I get that. And when you bring those two worlds together, the black man and the black woman, a lot of things are transpiring, right, on so many different levels, and I'm onto it, right? And I pick up on it, and I'm sitting at the table, and I'm like looking at him, squinting his eyes. I'm seeing his energy shift. I'm like, oh wow, like. And of course, I'm onto it even more because I've been through it. And remember the lesson I was telling you guys about trauma? It just makes you more hypersensitive. Maybe if I hadn't gone through that before, I wouldn't know the signs. It's a feeling, like it's a spiritual energy that you feel like, wait a minute, whoa. You pick up on that shit very easily, readily, man. And it's an adaptive survival skill. But anyway, since this energy changing, I'm just like, oh, to the point where it felt like, okay, damn, battlefield time, like, I'm the enemy. But he tried to play it off like, no, like, no, like, yes, I have now become the enemy. And it's like, now he's triggered because he's not feeling like I understand his struggle. I understand him. And it's like an ongoing forever plight between the black man and the black woman, right? And what is it going to take for the black man to feel fully loved and understood by the black woman and vice versa, you know? Does it take some dumbing down of consciousness so that we're not quite fully living in this awoken state? You too goddamn woke for your own good that you see and feel everything, right? Can we just be? And the funny thing about it, and I've said this before, is I think that naturally that's not how we are supposed to exist anyway. That's not the realm in which that's like we're at war, right? Yes, war is whatever. People say it's natural, but no, that's not a natural state of existing in. That's not how we're supposed to be. Constantly on guard, constantly worrying about your safety, your survival. That's not a state in which our mind is supposed to live in, to exist in, to be in, right? And so, given that it's a state that has been kind of superficially created, right, through this system that we live in of white supremacy. It's been superimposed upon us, right? So we were born into it. We're forced to kind of be woke, to be aware. But what about just being able to exist, right? When you compare our reality to a different race, they have a different reality. They're not walking. Like, I live in Upper East Side and I see it, the stark distinction between the different worlds. I've said this before, living in Upper East Side versus Harlem. It's just like different realms, yo. These people, not to say that white people don't have problems. Of course, we all do. But it's a different reality. And when you see, like, wow, they don't have to live like we have to live. And it's unfortunate. Even going back to that research study that I was talking about with how Black parents raise their children and how for Black children, they don't get to really explore their environment. White children at a bank, I think the environment in the research study was a bank, and it's showing how like the white children get to explore that's what they're supposed to do, explore their environment without a sense of fear or impending harm or impending danger. Whereas a Black child step damn near 2 feet, 1 foot away, and the mother yanks him back. Imagine how that shapes the mind of a child. That's not how things are supposed to be. But anyway, I'm about to wrap this video up. Y'all know I can go really in depth. But I said that to say, bringing it all back full circle is just that this is the kind of space that I'm in, with the transition of my mom. And I say transition very deliberately, is that I know she's still here, right? I know her spirit still lives. I mean, she's in me. I'm 23 chromosomes of my mom and my father. And going back to the image, after she transitioned, I no longer see that. It's gone. So I'm like, the whole time, this thing that I was seeing on this brick wall through my window was my mom the whole time. You talking about, like, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. But who knows? I don't know what the future holds entirely. I do know that I'm prepared. I'm prepared for anything. And yeah, we'll see how things unfold, I don't know. I know yesterday I actually went to Brooklyn because they have the African Film Festival, and I went to go see this lineup of short films playing at the BAM. And I'm like I'm leaving the train station, I see like, yo, they got a whole festival out here. Like, I freaking missed this. I knew about it, but it's like, you're distracted. Just positive distractions? I don't know. Is he a positive distraction? I question that. Because listen, if we're going to be at war when you know damn well your real enemy is a system, but then you looking at me as a reflection of that system, especially you saying you have his hatred, he definitely admitted that He hates him. It's clear he hates America. He want to go back to his home country in the Caribbean. And it's like, okay, clearly I'm fucking African American, right? So you may see certain aspects of me that you may align more so with being American or westernized. And then, you know what I'm saying? Seeing those, you got hatred towards me. You know, we're going to end up killing each other. Because listen, as fierce as he proclaims himself to be, as being a lion, you don't know a lioness. You just don't know. So it's just like, are we gonna like? I already. That's why I told like, yo, this shit, we can make it good, right? We can make this shit good, or this shit can be real bad. And I think the only way to prevent it from being real bad is building that trust, which obviously it requires quality time. It takes time for those things to unfold, and then for that trust, that foundation to be solidified. You go through things in life, and those experiences just help to bring people together. But it's just like, what does it take for you to see, for both of us to see, not just you, not just one-sided, but that even if I'm triggered, that you're not my enemy, right? And that you mean well by me and vice versa. We're both going to be triggered. Listen, clearly we both got traumas. And I see when he's triggered. He sees when I'm triggered. So it's just like, apart from me and this one particular person, right? It can apply to any type of situation with anyone, right? That's why I get on here and make my videos, because I know it's very relatable, right? Take me and this guy out of it. It's just like, this is just the reaction, the interconnectedness between the black man and the black woman. And this is just our reality. You know, I get it. And this is the reason why there's so much friction, you know, because it goes unchecked. And we don't know how to problem solve and how to deal with it. And we have to always bring it back to what's really at play behind the scenes. What's really pulling our strings. Goes back to the title. Everything is spiritual, y'all. This is spiritual warfare, and we have to be mindful of that so that we can take an active, proactive role in what's happening. Now, in regards to me going down to the funeral, I haven't been moved to go. I know I just said, yes, I'm going to go. In the funeral, I got the arrangement set for this Saturday. Friday is the viewing. But unless something happens between now and then, as it stands right now on this Tuesday, May 30th, I don't. And I don't feel bad. And funny enough, I'm going to say this in the video, but funny enough, like, I had, I think, 2 dreams about my mom since she transitioned. My mom was in a dream, and, you know, our same, like, the way we relate to each other, it was the same in a dream. And she was getting on me about something, and I'm pushing back. Because I'm my own person, so I always push back anyway. And then, like, after that, it's just like I gave her a compliment on her hair. And I was like, oh, your hair looks nice. And you dress nice. And she was looking fabulous. And she was like, oh, thank you. I was like, but she had just like really went off on me like moments before. I thought that was hilarious. But anyway, I'm going to catch you guys later. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in. Feel free, or maybe not, feel free to drop your opinions, because sometimes people's opinions really don't matter unless, you know, it does. But I know some people, like in my family, may watch this, may not, you know, it is what it is. The person who I talked about in the video, he may watch this, perhaps, may not. I do think that for a person to fully quite like understand, it could be helpful. Sometimes it'd be more confusing though to watch my videos. Like, it's gonna throw your ass for a loop. Like, what? So it may require like a conversation, and I don't know. Depends on what space. I don't know if I'm open to conversations. I'm not really talking to nobody at this point right now. Like, my family don't call me. Nah. You calling me, challenging me? Nah. Even my job, I had to put this out in the universe before I finish on this video. But yes, of course, my job gave me my space. They encouraged me to take time. It was like, come on, because I was going to go to work Thursday and Friday last week. I was like, no, I went to work Wednesday. But it was like, no, just take your time, right? I took off today. I'm taking off tomorrow, Wednesday. And I may go back in Thursday, but I just feel like something has to, a change is happening. I see it, and it may seem minor, but even in my like social media, a lot of my shit is going viral now. I'm like, interesting timing. Like fucking videos going viral. I'm looking at Facebook, the analytics and the insights, and they really are trying to pay me. Now I've been monetized like on YouTube and Facebook, but like Facebook really, I'm looking at the amount and I'm like, well, damn, they really coming through. Like, so it's just kind of showing me, okay, that some things are changing. I get it, and I'm going with the flow. And we'll just see. We'll just see, yo. My life, you just never know. We'll just see. On that note, I will catch you guys later. All is spiritual.